and Joe Piscopo. And I'm so excited to have our next guest. You know, we talk a lot about different segments of the voting population, and one of the key voting blocks in this election is certainly going to be the youth vote. And we're so honored to have the RNC's Youth Advisory Council chairman. He happens to be a good friend of mine. Brilyn Hollyhand is advising the RNC on how to win back the youth vote. Brilyn, welcome to the show.
Jen, good morning. It's an honor to be here.
Hey, it's so nice to have your Southern accent on our New York City airwaves coming to us from Alabama. It's great to have you. I want to introduce you to the Salem AM 970, The Answer audience. You know, you're the guy that got Donald Trump on TikTok. Tell us about that story. You met him backstage at a rally in Alabama, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, ma'am. You're spot on there. You've done your research. You know, him and I got to talk backstage at a rally, and he came to my home state, and we were talking. This is right after I came on as chair of the Youth Advisory Council, and I walk into the room. The Secret Service kind of pulls back the curtain, and he's waving in typical Trump fashion, and he goes, "Brilyn, what do we do to win the youth vote?" And I said, "Mr. President, it's simple. You've got to get on mainstream social media apps." And he said, I'm on social media. I know social media. And I said, "Yes, sir, you do, but Trump isn't going to cut it. We've got to get to mainstream platforms." And he, after that conversation, got back on Instagram, got back on TikTok, and then he's got back on Twitter within the past week, and his numbers are through the roof, and he understands how to talk to young people. He understands that to win Gen Z, he has to reach us where we are, and that's online, Jen, and he's doing that, and we're seeing that be successful for him in the polls.
Well, in fact, it's been so successful. Your advice has been that his TikTok account is now the fastest growing TikTok account in the social platform's history. So
yes,
he is out there talking to your peers, which are Gen Z and millennials. Speaking of that, how do Gen Z and millennial voters view Kamala Harris so far? You know, she had this incredible opportunity, you were saying, with the DNC convention this past week. Yeah. And you say that she blew her moment to really put some meat on the bone in terms of policies. Explain that.
Oh, she absolutely did. Jen, you understand this better than anybody. You're a political veteran. You know, this was their prime time event, the biggest week for Democrats. That really only comes once every 4 years. They had 4 nights of countless celebrities, this primetime coverage. They really were set up for success, and she blew it. I mean, in her nomination speech, Donald Trump by name 15 times, but I heard zero mention of the word inflation. Zero, Jen, and that's the number one thing affecting my generation. The city vice president laid out a strategy to lower inflation, secure the border, or even calm in these international conflicts that she started. 3 things that her administration got us into. Jen, this is frustrating for me. We look at Kamala Harris as a fake and as a phony, as someone who's going to sit there and tout feelings instead of facts. And that's frustrating because my generation's tired of chaos. Kamala Harris will be the president in her administration, will be the administration of chaos. Part of that.
We're talking with Brilyn Hollyhand. He's the RNC Republican National Committee's Youth Advisory Council chairman. He is advising them on how to win the youth vote. So if you watch mainstream media, you would think this is kind of a vibes election. Like she's having her brat girl summer and all of this stuff. This is stuff, of course, I'm used to from, you know, coming up with Kamala Harris, you know, winning elected office in California. You say there's actually more at stake here, that your generation, you know, you guys are leaving the house for the first time. You're graduating from college. You're living on your own. You're trying to afford your own place. You're maybe going to the grocery store for the first time without mom and dad's help. How important is that when you start talking with youth about Kamala Harris's policies?
Yeah, it's so incredibly important. You know, the vibes are only going to get her so far, and I think she's kind of at that limit. We've seen a 2 to 3 week honeymoon of Kamala Harris, and the honeymoon's over. Her own party's starting to call her out. CNN, MSNBC are starting to call her out. They're kind of seeing through this phony mess just like we are. And you mentioned her policies, but the problem there, Jen, is that there are no policies. She hasn't laid out any policies. The one policy she attempted to lay out was her economic policy last week, and that failed miserably. I mean, I'm taking an AP government class. Clearly, she slept through the same class because I learned that these price caps that she's attempting to put on Americans if elected in November has already been tried before by Jimmy Carter, a president who failed miserably with them by attempting to put a cap on gasoline prices. And when he did that, Jen, you remember from history class that gas prices soared and there were long lines at the gas pumps. Long lines. Those will be bread lines in a Kamala Harris administration. Really, if we want to look like a socialist nation, go ahead and elect Kamala Harris. That's Bernie Sanders' fever dream. But modern-day Americans don't want that, and especially young Americans. We're already fed up with the economy. Why would we want it to be worse?
We're talking with Brilyn Hollyhand. He's the RNC's Youth Advisory Council chairman. So how do you cut against this narrative that she's running away with the youth vote, running away with the women's vote? What are you going to help the RNC do this fall? Are you going to college campuses? How are you going to reach out to youth voters and make sure that they vote?
Yeah, so I spent the past year and a half going to college campuses, doing these bus tours, doing these speaking tours, making sure that we're talking directly with young people where they are on campus, making sure they're understanding the importance of the election, that this isn't something to sleep through or like. My message to the RNC has been encouraging President Trump to do the same. Take a few weekends, go down to some college football games, tailgate, stop by the frat houses and the sorority houses, talk to organized young people on those campuses, and say, listen, picture him in a natural environment. We understand President Trump, when he's off the script, how good he performs. Kamala Harris can't do that. Having him walk up to an SEC tailgate would be amazing imagery. The media would go crazy, and he would win voters from it. So that's my simple message there. But you mentioned a second ago the vibes and everything going on in the Kamala campaign. I mean, my message for the DNC is simple. It's, no amount of rap stars or these viral memes are going to convince my peers to vote for you when you have zero policy stances and zero plans to fix the nation. I think that's our frustration, and I think I speak for a lot of my peers when I say that.
Brilyn, you had me at SEC as an Oklahoma girl. We're joining.
Yes,
I think we're going to get our butts kicked the first year, but it's okay. We're glad to be there. We're glad to join y'all, and we'll probably see you at some games, and hopefully we see former President Donald Trump at some games too, because I like what you're talking here, like him strolling up to an SEC tailgate. That is something people will go wild about. Before we let you go, tell people about your new book, One Generation Away, based on the famous Ronald Reagan quote, and he is so right. We are no further than one generation away from a completely different America, and I think people are starting to see that with the Harris potential administration. Tell people how they can get your book and what it's about and why you wrote it.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Jen. Ronald Reagan's famous quote that your audience will remember is, freedom's one generation away from total extinction. Not to be a fearmonger this morning, Jen, but we are on the brink of extinction, and we're closer to that every single day as we inch towards a Kamala Harris administration. We've got to retreat from that. We've got to get back to the morals and values of Reagan, the shining city on a hill that's not really shining as bright anymore. We can still instill that, and I think it's up to my generation. So it debuted at number 2 on Amazon last month, which is a true testament to American dream, an 18-year-old being able to publish and release this book. It's really an opportunity and an honor that I've not taken lightly. Your audience can get signed copies right now, BrilynBook.com, and we're really just excited to get the message out there and have young people read it.
Amazing. Well, Brilyn Hollyhand, you're an impressive young man, and it's been a long time since I've been in a history class, but we thank you for the history lesson this morning. And everyone, be sure to check out his book, One Generation Away, Why Now is the Time to Restore America Freedom. Go to BrilynBook.com, BRILYN book.com. Everybody check it out. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jen. Have a great day in beautiful New York.
You too. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you soon up here. All right. We're going to take a quick look out.